Let's talk about laws for a moment because we throw around this idea of 48, 24 laws, 96 laws, 192, 384, 768 laws, all of these kinds of things. How many laws are you subject to? What is a law? I mean, Sam, right? You're studying physics. Um, in physics, there are, what are they called? A certain number of constants in the universe. Gravitational constant, you've got, you know what I mean, right? They have
Yeah,
certain
I know what you mean. Gravitational constant,
fixed numbers.
Boltzmann constant.
Sure. Planck constant.
Planck constant, yeah.
Yeah. There's actually close to 48 of them, but that's not what we're talking about. I think there's like 52 or something like that. It's pretty close to 48, which is just, to me, interesting. It's not exactly what I'm talking about when I say laws.
Yeah.
What are we talking about then? We're talking about God. What I mean by God is the initials governance, order, and dominion. Three forces. What has governance over you? What supplies order? And what has dominion over you? Unassisted, are you able to leave the planet? Unassisted by like a rocket, or a shuttle or SpaceX. Are you able to leave the planet? Yeah, I know because people are, thinking, what about the astral body? What about the mental body? Sure. Yeah. But if you haven't crystallized those, can you? Can you leave the planet?
No.
No. Huh? So would you say that you are under the governance, order, and dominion physically of the planet? I mean, when you go on your astral journeys, you don't take this sweaty, sticky, greasy thing with you, do you? No? You're kind of like a body of light, actually. It sounds like, what's it sound like? Velcro ripping when you leave your aura. If you haven't had that sensation, you probably haven't astral traveled. You've probably been connecting to things in your own aura. It really does, though. What it is, it's a discharge of static. It's the same kind of thing. When your astral form leaves your aura, it's got this kind of discharge sound to it. You don't hear it physically, you hear it electrically. Yeah. Like that ringing in your ears sometimes that you get in a charged atmosphere. Yeah. So let's get back. Governance, order, and dominion. You're under the governance, order, and dominion of the planet. So would you say that you're under 46 orders of law? It's a trick question. Or sorry, 48, not 46, 48 orders of law.
I believe we're almost there with the 48, but not quite. I think human is different, and I can't tell you why.
Okay.
I feel that we fall under that governance of the 48, but we have a possibility that other life forms don't have.
Sure. There you go.
It's like we're under 36 instead of 48 as an example. It's the way I perceive it.
Yeah. Okay. So you're right about the potential of it, but from the standpoint of how most people go on in their lives, it's actually quite a bit worse. Yeah. You're under 96 because you are completely orbiting the planet just like the moon. Humanity, all organic life is under 96 orders of law, not 48. If you become planetary in your nature, then you're under 48 orders of law. Yeah? And if you transcend higher than that, in other words, you become fatal, not in the negative context, but fate-like. There's the general rule, which is kind of like a river going one direction. And if you jump out of that river, you'll find another river going a different direction. That would be a good analogy towards having a fatal life. Not fatal in the negative context, but fate-oriented life, yeah. Then you're under 24. And if you achieve a solar level of awareness, you're under 12. Orders of laws. But at any level, how many laws are you under?
96.
No, at any level. This is going to transform the way you think about the laws, okay? I would say 3.
Oh, because the law of 3, that
All
there
3.
needs to be.
Fundamental. Again, I return to this idea that you perceive everything in 3 dimensions. Whatever level you're at, you will always be 3-dimensional. In your perception, I should say. Right? You're much more dimensional than that in the reality of things, but your perception is always going to be 3-dimensional. Now, we talked about time being 3-dimensional. When you develop an astral body and begin to have these experiences, yeah, that you're traveling and whatnot, you can pretty much go anywhere in time. You really can, at least as far back. Okay, let me caveat that. There was an event in history that capped off how far back you can go. It had to do with Egypt. Can't penetrate beyond a certain point in our time. But beyond that, you really can. You can go back and see, ancient cultures. You can even get a sense of the future, although the future is multi. Depends on what happens, and you'll understand this much more when you get into the I Ching work. You'll see how the future is like spreading out. The past is almost like a cone, really. Moving through this way. But the interesting thing is that you then lose a dimension in space once you have that, because now you have an additional dimension of time that you can go through, but space becomes a bit weird. Let me give you an example. Yeah, here. Let's say this chalice, yes? Let's say that somebody wanted to look at this while out of body in an astral form. You wouldn't see it quite like this. What you would see would be the inside, the outside, top, bottom, and everything in between simultaneously. And so it looks kind of distorted. Have you ever had the experience, we did this in school, where you put on these special glasses that are prismatic and it flips everything upside down, and you're like, at first you put them on, and you're like walking around because up above you, you see your feet, and below you, you see the ceiling, and it's very disorienting.
Yep.
That's what it's like when you first begin to astral travel on a regular basis. It's very disorienting because you're seeing dimensions that you're not used to seeing. You're seeing things like a 3-dimensional object, a cup like that, as all of it inside and out all at once. And so it takes some time to get used to it. It can take months or years sometimes to get used to it. And then you begin to be able to piece it together, just like wearing those special glasses, where after wearing them for 2 or 3 hours, you don't even notice. Your brain actually flips the image for you, and you don't realize that you've got them on. It's very, very peculiar. The brain will do that. Yeah, it'll make sense of it eventually. So that's what it's like. You become 3-dimensional in time, but you lose a dimension of space.
Are you losing a dimension of space because you're
Because you're
gaining?
always 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
You're always 3-dimensional. All right. Your existence is in time, really. And you're even missing an aspect of time. Once you get to a sun level type of development, then you really fully understand the 3 dimensions of time. Yeah, because you still don't know the now when in astral form. You can see past and future more 3-dimensionally than you do now. But there's also the space element that you also see. You get to a sun level type of perception. This is why it's been said that the sun is a rod through time. You know the expression? Have you heard this?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, a rod through time, meaning that, okay, if I erase this now,
Yeah.
It served its purpose, I think.
Yeah.
If not, I'll come back to it. It's okay. Meaning that, kind of started off as a nebulous, and then the nebulous collapsed down into, dust and gas and all this type of stuff, collapsed down into a point, and that point spit off planets and so on and so forth. But it also was traveling through time and sees all of it. Okay, so it's aware. Its body is a rod in time with cones around it, not orbits. It sees the planets as layers, as cones. Yeah, because it doesn't have that past, present, future type of thing. They're all simultaneous. And so its body is, how do you say this? Its body is a time body, not a physical body. We look up and we see it as a disk, not even a three-dimensional orb, right? But it views its body as a time body. Does that make some kind of sense?
A little bit.
Yeah, right. It doesn't see it as a space body. It sees itself as a time body. It has a certain beginning, certain end, just like you have physical dimensions. Yeah, I know that I can't reach farther than this physically. It can't reach farther than this, my own span. It sees itself like that, but through time.
Mm.
You're only ever subject to three laws, though. Wherever you are in your level of development, you're only ever subject to three laws. And this is the reason, too, by the way, why instead of having a sun level development in a physical body, you develop an astral and a mental body to be able to handle those. Because imagine what your life would be like if suddenly physically your brain changed into I'm talking about your physical brain, changed into an electrical entity that only could perceive time. For example, you would be completely dysfunctional in society, wouldn't you? Yeah. This is why you have an astral body, because it can cope with that kind of condition. It can cope with the all planets type of condition, step out of you and have that sort of experience, but then comes back to home base and recharges and regenerates here through that silver cord.